here from Kevin for your Transformer addiction. Well, thank you very much. Oh boy, a few more and I can run out and get one of those fancy Xtransbot third-party figures that'll snap on me when the pegs explode.
Xtransbots is a company with a shoddy track record, to say the least. At their best, they can make absolutely gorgeous figures with somewhat enjoyable transformations and a decent amount of playability. At their worst, they can make absolute train wrecks of bad QC, poor paint, and extremely overcomplicated transformations. The worst of all this, there is absolutely no consistency whatsoever with these guys. For every Jansen or Dante, there's a Lock 1.0 and a Fuzz. So, how does their latest release, at the time I wrote this, Bon James, or as he's better known as, Punch Counterpunch, fare? Starting off in alt mode, one thing Xtransbots always nails is their vehicles. If nothing else, they know how to craft a gorgeous alt mode, and Punch is no exception. This figure is a beautiful recreation of Punch's blue, totally not a Pontiac Ferrero. Licensed or not, this alt mode leaves me at a loss for words with how gorgeous it is. Both doors open, revealing a nice but unnecessary interior. The headlights pop out by pushing them from underneath the hood, and speaking of the hood, it has a rotating panel for both an Autobot and Decepticon badge. Very nice touch. The transformation is a real mixed bag. The majority of this car mode is contained in the legs, and this figure only really cares about cleaning up the bot mode with no regard for the process of how to get there. As a result, this leads to a few instances of pushing against plastic and carefully manipulating incredibly thin parts. It gets the job done, but it's by no means fun, and you have to really take your time with it and do it in the right order. The transformation is a part of what makes a Transformer what it is, and when it's done in such a poor fashion, it really ripples throughout the rest of the figure. Punch reveals both the greatest strengths and the greatest weaknesses of this figure. After a pretty sloppy transformation to get here, you're met with an incredibly nice looking robot. I haven't mentioned earlier, but this is the Japanese version of Bon James, with the much better head and color layout, as seen in Super Robot Lifeform Transformers The Headmasters. The extra color breakup of the black and the yellow stripes makes Punch feel more distinct from Counterpunch, and his overall just looks really nice. Counterpunch is pretty much a new verse, same as the first, just a little worse. It's identical to Punch, but with a worse color breakup. Both robot modes come with two design flaws that must be noted. Firstly, the shoulder joints will loosen themselves over time. This was a common issue upon the figure's release and is simply inherent to how they designed the figure, much like the recent MP Skyfire's ankles. Thankfully, this issue can be fixed by tightening the shoulder joints, which are on a simple screw. The other issue is the feet just outright suck. They're part of the rear car held together by a prayer that barely articulates. If you have the figure in hand, you know what I'm talking about. They barely move. And as a result, Punch has very little ankle movement, which very much restricts the poses this guy can get into. Those are the two standout issues of this figure, but overall, it just feels like a really fragile figure, like it wants to come apart. And as a matter of fact, my copy did. Its forearm just decided to cease one day and snapped off with no tension being put on it. I eventually got a replacement, but it really hurt my already middling thoughts on this figure, and it's what caused this video to get so delayed. Overall, this figure is a very mediocre outing from a very mediocre company. Ignoring the fact my copy outright broke, it's a figure that had a lot of potential, but ended up being very sloppy in its execution from an engineering, articulation, and quality control standpoint. This video was made because I really wanted to like this figure. I was really excited for it, and I still don't hate it, but it's not great, and I really felt the need to express that. What I also really wish is that Keith would just get a grip already. He's been doing this shit for 10 years. You think you would figure it out by now. Aviator Dan's signing off.
God, shit. Oh, fuck.